I'm delighted to have with me LOKVIR here, who's the founder and CEO of Pine Labs and has been building the company for 10 years. And LOKVIR can tell you himself, but I'm quite confident he has many, many more to go in sort of the journey. So I've had the good privilege and pleasure to serve on the board since 2009. We made a first $1 million investment in Pine Labs in 2009. And the first few years were a little bit rough, and then the company has really come into its own. And now we have a little over $22 million invested in Pine Labs over multiple rounds of financing. So we are delighted to have what we think is a category-defining company in payments in India. So, LOKVIR, it may be great for you to maybe give the audience a very quick 2-minute synopsis on what Pine Labs is, and maybe just to help everybody understand the scale and how much, what we do in the payments ecosystem. Maybe tell us, how much monthly volume of payments now we are beginning to, handle on our software platform. And also, rather than ask you the question of, who does Pine Lab work with, I'm going to ask LOKVIR the question of which large retailer in India does Pine Labs not work with? That's a much easier question, I think, for LOKVIR to answer. So why don't you give us a quick overview, and then we should chat a little about your journey.
Right. So Pine Labs, today we offer a payment network to retailers. We connect retailers with the banks. Traditionally, this has been done where the banks used to go and deploy their point-of-sale terminals at the retailer countertop. We have substituted that with our own infrastructure, which offers lots of additional benefits and advantages to the retailers and also to the banks. Before we go into the details of that, this month we are hoping that we'll do about 4,000 crores in volume. I mean, this being a festival month, we are seeing a big spending happening all across. This has been a fast-growing business for us. In fact, in March this year itself, we were approximately at 1,500 crores. And so in about a span of 6 odd months, it's more than doubled the volume that we're processing. The proposition that we have for retailers is that traditionally, the offer that banks used to make to the retailers would be a composite offer that would consist of a financial offer and also a technology offer. Technology being that device that they put at the point of sale for the purpose of carrying out transactions. What we have done is we have substituted the technology that is offered by the banks by our own technology, which leads to workflow automation for retailers. Their store processes get a lot more simplified. Their financial recon processes get a lot more simplified. In addition to that, we have started doing lots of value-added services with the belief that every transaction that happens at point of sale is actually an opportunity to engage with the customer. It's not simply a transaction to transfer funds from customers' accounts into merchants' accounts, but it's an opportunity that can be converted into a marketing, into a promotion, into a sort of building a relationship with a merchant kind of opportunity. So most of the solutions that we are building, and there is a big pipeline of that, are oriented at converting a simple traditional credit card, debit card transaction into a far more potent and useful tool for the retailer.
And how many services are integrated into a cloud platform on the back end?
Right. So a couple of years back, this was the change that we brought in, where we built this cloud-based platform where the entire intelligence of transaction processing is actually shifted from that device onto the cloud, and that is a huge boon for all the entities in the system. So now we are able to keep the front end very simple, which doesn't have to be changed frequently, and all the new services and new ideas that we do, they can be implemented at the back end. To give examples of that, traditionally, I mean, for those people who know how credit card systems work, it is a merchant, then there is an acquirer, then there is Visa Master, and then there is an issuer, and this is how the flow of transaction takes place. What our solution allows is, it allows various entities to have a direct presence at the point of sale, which means that an issuer can engage with its cardholder at the point of sale, which means, for example, building a plan like an EMI plan, something which has become very popular in recent times. So almost 100% of this product EMI promotions in the country with people like Apple, Samsung, and Sony, and all these guys are carried out on Pine Labs platform, which allows people to say that these are the products I want to push in the market, and these are the kind of promotions I want to bring on top of that. Another example would be like, for example, reward point redemption or loyalty programs or gift card programs. So all these additional value-added services, they become part of the same technology infrastructure that we have created for the purpose of doing credit card transactions. But these are far more valuable for the retailer because, as I said, he sees financial transaction as a commodity transaction to shift money from account A to account B. Everything else is customer acquisition for him. And that's where we have brought in this transformation into our system.
So LOKVIR, who doesn't work with Pine Labs? Which are the large retailers?
No, I think most of the large retailers work with us. And out of the ones that don't, I think most of them are in pipeline. So, for example, the pilots are going on with several new customers. What I can say is that all of them want to work with us. So the challenge is to justify to every one of them that why they have to pay us.
Yeah.
The ones who are still not working with us are the most conservative ones who still feel that, they're not convinced that, why they have to pay so much to get the service from us, but we're working on it.
So LOKVIR is too embarrassed to say this, but last night over dinner, I ran into LOKVIR here in the hotel lobby. So I said, hey, I'm going to ask you the question, who's not working with us? So he said, oh yeah, lifestyle is not yet working with us. And he's not saying that here, but practically all of India's largest retailers are now using Pine Labs' platform. And so how does our competitive landscape look? Who do we compete with or don't compete with in India? And it may be helpful for the audience to understand, how do you get into this type of a market structure that Pine Labs now has?
Actually, I think we have an advantage because in a way we redefined the way credit card, debit card transactions were going to be managed. So when we did the split that the banks can deal with the merchants on financial component of the offer, and technology is going to be substituted. That was the first of its kind proposition that went into the market. So obviously at that time there was not a lot of competition. But what obviously people have spotted the opportunity, and there are many people who are trying to do what we are doing. And but I think we are well placed because this business has network effects. The fact that we have a widespread presence, encourages more banks to work with us, encourages more product companies to work with us, and the fact that more banks and more product companies are working with us encourages more retailers to come to us. So for a new, so there is sort of this natural barrier that is there for new entrants to come in, and plus, unlike online space, at the point of sale, the technology is a bit more complex, and the regulations are very stringent. There is trust required with the banks before you're able to sort of accept cards on their behalf. Merchants don't trust someone very easily when they have to basically rely on your system to have that daily flow of funds coming from banks into their system. So these are the hurdles that people have to cross. But I'm sure lots of people are working on it, and some of them will find success, and we'll see.
And double click on the technology. Why is it so hard to do what we do?
I think that the way the financial systems work, at least the way we understand, is that because of various compliances and security requirements, they're very rigid. So the way, for example, the Visa and MasterCard have defined that this is how chip and pin transactions are going to happen, it has been defined in a very rigid manner. There are lots of certification and compliances that go on to it. In addition to that, the way RBI has made it further, a little more complicated by ensuring some further local India-specific regulations on top of that. So that makes the technological hurdle a bit difficult to cross. But what we are doing is that within this rigid environment, we have to build a platform that has enormous flexibility, which means that without changing any of the restrictions that are imposed on us, we should be able to play around with transactions, connect issuers onto point of sale, do product promotions on that. I think that is quite a challenging task. It requires, it took us a lot of time and effort to really build that. I think that is the
Actually,
barrier.
that's a very good point, right? Look, most people think of regulation as a barrier or as inhibiting them. And in Pine Labs' case, has that actually helped us?
It has. I mean, and I mean, even though it made our life very difficult for some period of time, but I think it was a very good thing that happened, because what happens is, even so, in our case, a couple of our competitors were not able to meet those requirements that were imposed. So, but their failure actually started reflecting on us also because we belong to the same category. So if suppose there is a data compromise at one particular payments company, the non-banking payments company as a whole come under scrutiny. So the fact that these barriers are being created by regulators, that security has to be so stringent, it improves the security environment and it improves that it minimizes the risk for people like us that there'll be no fly-by-night operators doing payment transactions in the country and so on. So it's very helpful.
Yeah, and then one question Lokvir and I keep chatting about, and Lokvir, I think the audience may be great to hear is, to the best of our knowledge, there isn't a company like us in other markets, and we couldn't really look to the developed markets and say, hey, let's do what's done in the US, let's do what's done in Europe. How are you thinking now that you've sort of created a new way, like you said, to manage transactions, credit and debit transactions? What is the next path for us in terms of, we have a pretty large market share in India. Are we going to export this and so on? So.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's a very good problem because we've got used to this heady growth. And, it's obviously visible that it's not going to be there forever, in India at least. Today we have about, at point of sale, we capture about 20% of transactions. They flow through our network. We are expecting that in next couple of years, that number will more than double. So we should be having a very large share of the market here. And obviously that means that growth is going to be, we have to get used to smaller number of growth. But to compensate for that, we have to look for opportunities elsewhere. And we are planning to explore. And we have already started doing some groundwork on taking our model to other markets and test it out.
Yeah, so just to double click on that, I don't know if everybody got that. Pine Labs is hoping that 40 to 50% of all credit debit transactions in India will go through their platform, in the near term. So, and because we want more growth, and that number is growing pretty nicely because India is very underpenetrated.
And actually, it's not really a big battle for us because what we are doing is beneficial for all the entities that are connected with us. So the banks benefit enormously by all the new opportunities that we create for them to engage with the customer. So if we, for example, if we bring in a new promotion from a product company like Samsung, that this is the promotion that's running, the promotion is funded by Samsung, which is doing its product promotions, but the benefits are being passed on to cardholders through the banks. So suddenly, from the bank's point of view, it looks like my card has become more valuable for my customer. In fact, the couple of things that we tell to the banks who are, are sort of, bit skeptical sometimes in terms of growing a market share. The two things we tell them is that wherever we deploy our solutions, we will prove to you that it is more beneficial for you. You will make more money on our system than you will if you were to do it on your own. And second thing that we are trying to tell them is that India is such an unsaturated market in terms of electronic transactions. We have a market size of retail spend of about $500 to $600 billion, out of which $35 billion is what is electronic, which is on cards and otherwise. And most of the remaining is cash. So the point we're trying to make is that if we are able to convert or to make our card transactions look more loaded with more value, look cooler, look more fashionable, more this thing, then our battle should be to convert that remaining cash transaction onto the card transaction, which is good for everyone.
So actually, this is a very important topic that you have co-opted banks, you have co-opted retailers, and you have purposely chosen to create a model over time which actually does not directly compete with the other guys, but actually complements them.
Yes.
And how did that happen? So how did you end here? Because it's been a long journey.
Yeah,
and it's been many years.
No,
right?
I mean, in hindsight, it looks, even we're puzzled why it took so long because, it looks like such a straightforward thing. We should have done it in a couple of years, but it took us, several more years. So when we started off, actually, I mean, our experience was we were going to retailers to sell loyalty programs. And, in that process, we discovered the problems that retailers were facing in terms of managing this complexity of card transactions, standalone versus point of sale, no integration, no workflow automation, no networks, no IP-based communication, and so on and so forth. We started building very simple solutions for them. So that was the first phase where we were saying that we will bring in efficiency onto payment transactions. But once that started becoming, popular and started spreading out, then these other opportunities start coming up that can we do a little bit extra on that? A bank will come, can you do something extra for my customer at that point of sale? And then we realized, we studied that technology deeply, and that there were two realizations that came. And actually, that is the opportunity in the payment space. At a fundamental level, the payments technology is really a legacy. I mean, the way you use a card today at point of sale is not very different from the way you used it 30 years back. You still go to the same terminal, it is swiped, and a charge slip comes out, and you print it. And in 30 years, the world has changed. But the change has not really come into the payment space. And the reason for that is that, this, again, these are rigid systems, and all that global network is there. It's like what we're calling that, in India, we have broad gauge railway, and the rest of the world is on a standard gauge. What will be the cost of changing that gauge to standard gauge? So that's the kind of problem that, payments railroad faces. So that is where the opportunity comes from. When we realized that these are the kind of requirements that banks and issuers are asking for, that's when we felt that we must build a platform that will be adaptable and open to change without having to, really go through multiple recertifications in the process. And that's where this entire, redesign of the payment system happened, where we built a platform that allows us to do what we call a composite transaction or a conditional transaction, which means while there is a flow of a transaction, which is normal credit card processing flow, but we are able to pause it or interrupt it and put additional condition of fulfillment on it, so that all these blended transactions can take place. And this is where it happened.
LOKVIR and Shailendra, thank you so much. It's been an
very much.
interesting panel. Ladies and gentlemen, please give them a big round of applause. Thank you.